Guys, it's so great to see you. So great to be with you. Thanks for having us over, and thanks for sitting down and chatting about church planting. Why don't you, just for those who don't know you guys, why don't you just quickly tell us a bit about yourselves and what you're doing here in your lovely home in West Lothian?
Cool. So I'm Luke, and this is Char, and I suppose I'll go back a bit. We were part of King's Church Edinburgh for probably around the best part of a decade, and we've both ended up being primary school teachers, and we now work out here in West Lothian, and we are part of King's Church West Lothian. Not a very original name, I'm afraid, but but we have been out here for just over 5 years, really, and reflecting back, especially now, you just realise what a great deal of good it did to us as Christians. All that time at King's Edinburgh, just growing in faith, growing to get to know Jesus better, growing as disciples and following him. And I think having that experience of a great, vibrant church life, it just I think in both of us probably put a passion to see that happen again, somewhere else. And what could God maybe do in a different town or elsewhere in Scotland. So there was that.
I think when we first joined King's as well, it wasn't huge, and we'd seen it grow quite a lot over the years that we'd been there, and just the different things that had happened in that time, and that was really inspiring.
So how did you get involved in the church plant out here in West Lothian? What led you to moving out here?
So I got a job out in West Lothian partly because another member of King's Edinburgh had said to me, I couldn't get a job in Edinburgh, and she said, "Oh, why don't you go on the supply list?" I'm a teacher, go on the supply list in West Lothian. And sure enough, a week later, I had a job, which was amazing at that point. So I was commuting out every day, thinking, "Why am I here?" And then a few years later, Luke also decided to do teaching. Applied for his probation year and put West Lothian as his third choice. Edinburgh was first because we were really thinking, well, we want to live in Edinburgh and be in Edinburgh, and if you're commuting, that's a lot of people do that. So he got his probation year out here, and we were commuting out together to West Lothian every day. And then I think that almost felt like it happened quite naturally, that then we were having kids and we thought, oh well, where are we going to live now? And this kind of all happened before the church plant started. And we just really felt like God had made it really easy for us in a way. We were not necessarily the sorts of people who'd be pioneering and starting a church plant on our own, but actually God very gently prompted us or made things happen, got us jobs where we didn't necessarily expect to get the jobs, I suppose.
So it sounds like God really worked through ordinary kind of life circumstances, and in amongst that called you into this thing that was happening, and you were just like, yeah, we're willing to do that.
Yeah, and I suppose
definitely.
there was that we kind of, God led us to that point, and then I suppose it was up to us to make that decision of do we want to, because we could have stayed as part of King's Church Edinburgh. It was a great place. We loved being there, but I suppose we both sensed that this is something for us. It's no accident that we're out here, that we feel God's led us this far. It felt like the next step was to be involved in the church plant. And I think being part of a group of church like New Frontiers, it's always been probably a bit on our heart to be part of. It's a church planting network. It's not just one church, and I feel like for us, it was always on the horizon somewhere, and it just felt like right that it was West Lothian. At that moment, God had led us to that.
Obviously, church planting is a great thing to do, an amazing thing to do, but not an easy thing to do. How has God stretched your faith, maybe strengthened your faith through this whole process?
Being a small group, it changes your perspective about a Sunday and what makes a Sunday happen, or a small group happen. It's a smaller pool of people to make that happen.
Yeah, you're serving a lot. You're doing lots of things, but what we've seen more and more, I suppose, as the church has been established, is we're doing that amongst people that we didn't know before. People that are local people to the area, whether they were Christians or not, maybe coming to be involved in the church and being part of our church community. So there's this really amazing, exciting bit, whilst it's also being, the reality is it's hard work too. So you're holding those things together, but trusting that God's doing something in the smallness, and He's growing us, and He's growing us as His disciples.
So God's clearly been at work through you guys while you've been out here. Why don't you just tell us some of the things that He's been doing through you, through the church plant?
I think pre-COVID we had we'd taken a bit of time to get to know the local community where we were meeting, and we seemed to engage with the local community pretty well quite early on. So, we put on Messy Church, which a lot of local kids came to, and that was a really positive thing in the area. Bingo nights, and I think it was getting to know what do people want to do, and actually it was brilliant. We had an alpha course running just before COVID, which yet again had a lot of people coming to it, which was really exciting, really encouraging.
I think in the last few months, we just feel like people are really walking with Jesus more and being more established in the church. And you're seeing these people who you've known for a few years who are now just such a brilliant part of the church community. I guess what we really want to get across as well is that it's a really messy church community. It's not, it's made up of lots of different people, lots of different sort of backgrounds, I guess, and people come from lots of different places, and it's kind of what we dreamt of. And sometimes you go, oh yeah, this is actually happening, which is wonderful, along with, the inevitable challenges.
What would you say to anyone watching this who's wondering, maybe God will call me one day to get involved in something like this, get involved in church planting? What would your advice be?
I think, there's lots you could say. Something I was thinking about is just, I'd encourage people to have a good perspective on it, or maybe like the right perspective on it. So perhaps not over spiritualizing it either, not making it into a huge big thing, which has to be like a lightning bolt from God saying, you go here, you do this. But I feel like church planting, it's building church wherever you are, whether you're in Edinburgh, in the Borders, in West Lothian, or in another nation. It's just about gathering as a church, as one, worshipping God, praying, building fellowship, reaching the community, which are very normal things. It's what we're called to be as Christians. And it just so happens we're doing it here in West Lothian, and maybe guys in Edinburgh will be doing that soon in other places in Scotland. But similarly, I suppose it's not. It doesn't have to be this super lightning bolt, but also it is a significant thing that God is doing. And I was reminded of, the mustard seed. It's so small, and it can seem quite insignificant, but God grows it to be this great tree. And lots of church planters start off like that, like a tiny little thing. But like you've seen in Edinburgh, over years, it becomes this wonderful place where the kingdom of God is growing, and people are being drawn into that, and lives are being changed by God. So, lots probably there.
Yeah, I think our story is that it was very ordinary, sort of the way that we felt. It seemed at the time that we stumbled into it, but actually God was really working through all the different little things that got us out here. And it's not about our capabilities or our what we think we can manage. God's with us, and we have been able to do more with him than we would have in our own strength. So I suppose it's what is God calling you individually to, and obeying that. Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks so much, guys, for having us. There's so much great stuff in there, and I know I was encouraged and inspired, as always, by you guys. And I know that folk watching have got a lot out of that as well. So thank you so much.